Chapter 20. Fake Scriptures of 9 Yin. Hong Shigong and Go Jing saw that Ouyang Feng uncle and nephew led Zhu Batong to a cabin in the back, while they were taken to a different cabin to change their clothes. 4 white-dressed maidens served them. Hong Shigong laughed. "The old beggar has not had any luck to enjoy this kind of treatment," he said. Taking out all his clothes, a maiden dried him up with a clean towel. Go Jing felt the blood flowing up his neck and face, and he did not dare to take his clothes off. Hong Shigong laughed. "What are you afraid of? They won't eat you alive," he said. 2 maidens approached him to take his boot off and loosen up his belt. Go Jing quickly took his boot and upper garment, then jumped to the bed, hiding underneath a blanket, changing his own clothes behind the blanket. Hong Shigong burst out in laughter. Those 4 maidens also giggled. Once they were finished, 2 other maidens entered the cabin carrying trays full of wine, dishes of meat and vegetables, and some white rice, saying, "Please 2 gentlemen, eat what we prepared in a hurry." Hong Shigong waved his hand. "Please all of you get out of here. Every time the old beggar sees good-looking ladies, I can't get the food down to my tummy." The maidens smiled and complied, closing the door on their way out. Hong Shigong took the wine and the dishes to his nose and sniffed at them. "Don't eat or drink this," he whispered. "The old poison is so crafty. Just eat the plain white rice." He took the gourd on his back, pulled the plug and took 2 mouthfuls of wine, while busily eating 3 big bowls full of rice. Go Jing followed his lead and dumped the dishes under the deck. "I wonder what would they want Big Brother Zhu to do?" With a low voice Go Jing asked. "Can't be anything good," Hong Shigong replied. This time the old urchin really got himself in trouble. Suddenly the cabin door was pushed open and a maiden said, "Master Zhu asked young Master Go to come to the rear cabin. He has something to discuss with you." Go Jing looked at his master and walked out the cabin following the maiden. They walked alongside the port side of the boat toward the back. The maiden lightly knocked the cabin door and after waiting a moment, shoved the door open, announcing, "Young Master Go has arrived." Go Jing entered the cabin and the door was closed behind him. There was no one in the cabin. Go Jing felt strange, but then the small door to his left was shoved open and Ouyang Feng uncle and nephew walked in. "Where is Big Brother Zhu?" Go Jing asked. Ouyang Feng closed the door with the back of his hand, took 2 steps forward and grabbed Go Jing's wrist. His movement was very swift. Besides, not in a million years would Go Jing guess that Ouyang Feng would do that. He felt like his wrist was pinched by a pair of pliers. He could not move at all. Ouyang K pulled a steel-spinned folding fan from his sleeve pocket and placed it on a vital acupoint on Go Jing's back. Go Jing was dumbstruck. He could not guess what this uncle and nephew wanted from him. "The old urchin lost a bet to me, but when I asked him to do something for me he refused," Ouyang Feng coldly said. "Hang?" Go Jing was confused. "I told him to rewrite the 9 Yin manual from memory for me to see, but unexpectedly he did not keep his word," Ouyang Feng explained. "How could Big Brother Zhu give the manual to you?" Go Jing thought. And again he asked, "Where is Big Brother Zhu?" It was he who said that whoever does not keep his words must jump to the sea to be eaten by the sharks. Hang. Finally he made his mind and did what he said he would, Ouyang Feng coldly said. Go Jing was shocked. He stammered. He tried to pull his hand and dash to the door, but Ouyang Feng's grip was very tight, forcing Go Jing to stop. Ouyang K pushed his fan slightly harder on Go Jing's the most positive acupoint. Ouyang Feng pointed to a table with a stack of paper and some ink on it and said, "Now in the whole wide world you are the only one who knows the manual's full text. Quickly write it down for me." Go Jing shook his head. Ouyang K smiled and said, "The food and wine you and the old beggar ate just now were poisoned. If you don't take my uncle's only antidote you will die within 12 hours, just like the sharks you saw earlier. If you comply, we will spare both you and your master's lives." Go Jing was secretly startled. If master was not alert we would certainly fall into their trap. He stared at Ouyang Feng and thought, "You are a great master of the martial art, yet you commit this despicable act." Seeing Go Jing just stared at him without saying anything, Ouyang Feng said, "You have memorized the manual in your heart anyway. You won't lose anything by writing it down. What are you waiting for?" Go Jing shivered from rage. "You have harmed my sworn brother's life. There is hatred as deep as the ocean between you and me. If you want to kill me, then go ahead. But if you think you can force me, dream on." "Hang." Ouyang Feng said, "Good kid, you have guts. You are not scared of death, but does your master's life mean nothing to you?" Before Go Jing could reply, a loud bang was suddenly heard. The cabin door was shattered with wood fragments flying everywhere. Ouyang Feng turned his head only to see Hong Shigong with a couple of wooden barrels in his hands. Hong Shigong threw the water out. Two deep green transparent water columns flew toward Ouyang Feng uncle and nephew. Ouyang Feng knew the fierceness of this water attack. He leaped to the left to elude while his left hand still holding Go Jing's wrist tight. The water hit the cabin's wall and splashed to all direction. Ouyang K loudly called out in alarm because Hong Shigong had grabbed the back of his head. Hong Shigong laughed out loud. "Old poison, you always want to kill me by any means possible. Fortunately, the heaven won't allow that to happen." Ouyang Feng saw his nephew had fallen into Hong Shigong's hands, so he smiled and said, "Shizhong, are you going to challenge me again? It won't be too late if we wait till we are ashore. I see you like my disciple very much that you won't let his hand go." Hong Shigong laughed. "I made a bet with the old urchin and I won, didn't I?" Ouyang Feng asked, "You are our witness, are you not? Let me ask you this, the old urchin did not keep his word, did he?" Hong Shigong repeatedly nodded his head in answer to his questions. "Thoughts correct. Where is the old urchin?" Go Jing was grieved. He shouted, "Big brother Zhu was forced to jump into the sea and die." Hong Shigong was startled. With Ouyang K still in his grip, he jumped out of the cabin, looked to all direction, but all he saw was the billows rolled, did not see even Zubatong's shadow. Ouyang Feng with Go Jing still in his grip also walked out to the deck. Loosening up his grip, he said, "Go Shanzi, your skill is still very far from adequate. You let others grab your hand without you able to do anything. Go and learn 10 more years from your master, then you can roam the Jianghe again." Go Jing was worried about Zubatong's safety, so he ignored his derogatory remark and climbed the mast, looking at all directions. Hong Shigong lifted Ouyang K up and tossed him toward Ouyang Feng. He shouted, "Old poison, you forced the old urchin to his death. The Quanzhen people will deal with you. Your martial art may be profound, but I don't believe you'll survive the Quanzhen Seven's besiege." Ouyang K did not wait until his body touched the deck. His right hand pushed the deck and he somersaulted to an upright position. Secretly cursed, "Stinky beggar. By this time tomorrow you will crawl in front of me, begging me to save your life." Listening to Hong Shigong's remark, Ouyang Feng simply smiled faintly. "I am afraid you won't be able to witness this when it happens." "Very well," Hong Shigong said. "Until that time I am going to use my dog-beating stick to beat some wet dogs." Ouyang Feng raised his hands to salute, then entered the cabin. After looking around for a while without seeing anything, Go Jing got back down to the deck and told his master how Ouyang Feng had forced him to rewrite the manual. Hong Shigong nodded without saying anything. He quietly pondered, "Once the old poison set his mind, he won't easily let go. Before he gets hold of the manual, he will entangle my disciple continually." Go Jing remembered Zubatong's death. He cried mournfully. Hong Shigong was also grieving. He knew the boat was sailing fast to the west, so within 2 days they were going to reach land. He was afraid Ouyang Feng would poison their food, so he went to the kitchen and plundered some dishes and plenty of rice. And after eating it with Go Jing, he nodded his head and snored. Ouyang Feng uncle and nephew waited until the afternoon of the next day. Practically 18 hours had passed, yet they have not heard Hong Shigong and his disciple made any noise. Ouyang Feng was afraid his poison was too strong for them and killed them. Killing Hong Shigong was not a big deal, but killing Go Jing meant the 9-yin manual would be lost forever. Secretly he took a peek through a crack on the door, only to see two people were sitting comfortably and chatting amiably. Hong Shigong's voice was loud and clear. Ouyang Feng was enraged, looked like the old beggar was alert. They aren't poisoned at all. His poison collection was vast, but in order to poison Hong Shigong without harming Go Jing, he had to think of some better plan. Hong Shigong was telling Go Jing the ins and outs of the beggar clan. That although they begged for a living, actually every member had the responsibility to uphold justice, to help those in distress, to follow their predecessors' good deeds, not the bad ones. These facts were mostly hidden from the public eyes. He further talked about the election procedure of the beggar clan leader when the time comes to find a successor. "It's a pity you don't like being a beggar," he said, "otherwise you have a perfect character to be a leader. There is no one inside the clan superior to you. I'd really like to bestow the dog-beating stick to you." While they were still chatting, suddenly there came banging noise from outside. It sounded like a hatchet or a chisel hitting the wall. Hong Shigong jumped in alarm. "Not good. This stinky snake is going to sink the boat," he cried out. Rushing toward the door, he shouted to Go Jing, "Quickly go to the small lifeboat at the back." He was just finished shouting when with a loud crash a big hole appeared on the wooden partition, followed by loud hissing noise. It was not seawater came rushing in, but dozens of venomous snakes. The old poison snake attack. Hong Shigong mocked. His right hand swept, scattering dozens of steel needles. Dozens of snakes were nailed onto the wooden deck. With loud hissing noise their bodies coiled and were not able to move anymore. Ronger is very good at this scattering needles technique, yet compared to Master she still falls far short, Go Jing thought. By that time dozens of more snakes coming through the hole in the wall. Hong Shigong kept shooting steel needles and more snakes were nailed to the floor. A wooden whistle sound was still heard outside, and more snakes were driven into the cabin. Hong Shigong shot more and more needles. "The old poison sends all these target for me to practice my martial arts skill. Truly it is a rare opportunity," he said. But when he put his hand into his pocket to grab some more needles he was startled since only a few left. Secretly he was alarmed seeing the snakes kept coming continuously. He was thinking hard on what to do next when suddenly a loud crash was heard and the wall behind him fell down. A palm was swiftly moving toward his back. Go Jing was standing beside his master, but suddenly heard the swift and fierce wind. He turned around and using both hands he blocked the sneak attack. The incoming attack was so strong that he felt his stomach turned upside down and he almost passed out. Having his attack unexpectedly blocked, Ouyang Feng uttered a cry of surprise. He stepped back a little bit and then horizontally hacked with the back of his hand. Go Jing knew this attack would be hard to defend, so with his left palm he parried the attack, while his right hand launched a counterattack toward Ouyang Feng's side, forcing him to withdraw. Ouyang Feng did not dare to take Go Jing's palm on his side, so he ducked while sending out a hand in a chopping motion toward Go Jing's lower body. Go Jing was aware that the situation was very critical. The snakes would keep coming in as long as Ouyang Feng could control the entrance. His master and he would be in grave danger. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and to the utmost of his ability using one hand to fend off the incoming attacks while with the other hand tried to send counterattacks. When his left defended his right hand attacked, when his right hand void his left hand solid. Following Zuba Tong's technique of mutual hands combat. Ouyang Feng had never seen this mutual hands combat technique before, so he was confused for a moment, giving Go Jing a chance to send several stances. Talking about true martial arts skill, Ouyang Feng was still twice as superior to Go Jing. Only this mutual hands combat technique was so strange to him and it took him by surprise, so Go Jing was able to gain an upper hand for a while. But the Western poison Ouyang Feng had enjoyed his title for dozens of years. He was a great martial art master, so he was confused only for a short while, but soon had thought of a method to deal with this strange technique. Ugh! With a loud grunt, both his palms shot forward. Go Jing would not be able to block this attack single-handedly. He was forced to step back, but behind him a flock of snakes was heard hissing loudly. Wonderful! Wonderful! Hong Shigong shouted loudly, "Old poison, you can't even defeat my disciple. How can you flaunt yourself as a great hero?" With the dragonflies to the sky, he leaped over both Ouyang Feng and Go Jing's heads. Toward Ouyang Ke with one kick he knocked Ouyang Ke down. Hong Shigong then used his elbow and struck Ouyang Ke, somersaulting toward Ouyang Feng's back. Ouyang Feng leaned sideways to avoid his nephew, and because of that Go Jing was freed from his vicious attack. Master's martial arts skill is on par with his, while his nephew's is below mine. Plus, he is wounded. So by 2 against 2, we would certainly win, Go Jing thought. His spirit rose, and with renewed vigor his hands and feet attacked Ouyang Feng like a violent storm. While violently fighting the enemy, Hong Shigong opened his eyes wide to all directions. He saw dozens of snakes were approaching Go Jing's back, ready to strike. Once Go Jing got bitten, he would certainly die. Hong Shigong anxiously called out, "Jinger, get out of here, quick!" He increased the intensity of his attack toward Ouyang Feng, forcing him to withdraw from Go Jing. Ouyang Feng faced attacks from both his front and rear. He felt quite strenuous. Hong Shigong's attack had forced him to lean sideways, thus giving Go Jing an opportunity to dash out of the cabin, while Ouyang Feng and Hong Shigong were engaged in a fierce battle again. In the meantime, hundreds of snakes crawling around the deck had surrounded the two of them. "Fighting with pets as your helper? You are shameless," Hong Shigong mocked, but in his heart he was anxious, since the snakes were countless. They were everywhere. With the dog-beating stick in his right hand, he crushed dozens of snakes' heads. Pulling Go Jing's hand, they headed for the mast. Ouyang Feng was secretly alarmed. Not good. If these two leap to the mast, they will be unreachable for a while. He flew to block them. Hong Shigong's both palms made a ferocious chopping motion with a roaring gust of wind. Ouyang Feng's fist swept horizontally to parry. Go Jing stepped forward to help his master, but Hong Shigong called out, "Just go to the mast, quick." "I want to kill his nephew to avenge Big Brother Zhu," Go Jing replied. "Snake! Snake!" Hong Shigong urgently warned him. Go Jing saw vipers all around him slithering about. He did not dare to linger much longer. With the back of his hand he caught Ouyang Kansas Yin Sua leaping dozens of feet high. His left hand grasped the mast. At that very moment he heard the wind of an incoming projectile, so he shot the Yin Suo in his hand, and with a loud clang, 2 projectiles met midair. Both changed direction toward the side of the boat and fell down to the sea. Go Jing moved his hands and feet, and in a short while he had reached the middle of the mast. Ouyang Feng knew Hong Shigong also wanted to go up the mast, so he intensified his attacks. Even though Hong Shigong was able to hold his ground steadily, he could not move toward the mast. Go Jing saw the snakes crowding around his master's feet. He was very anxious. With a loud shout he wrapped his legs around the mast and bent his body down. Hong Shigong understood his intention. His left foot kicked the deck, his right foot flew toward Ouyang Feng's face while extending his dog-beating stick toward Go Jing. Go Jing grabbed the end of his stick and flung it up. Hong Shigong's body flew to the air. With a long laughter, Hong Shigong's left hand caught the mast above Go Jing. This way these two were high in the air looking down to their opponents, thus occupying a superior position. Ouyang Feng knew that if he climbed the mast he would certainly be at a disadvantage, so he called out loudly, "Very well. We lost this time. Turn the rudder to the east." With an abrupt turn the boat was sailing to the east. From high above the deck with their feet on the mast, Hong Shigong and Go Jing saw the snakes were very dense on the deck. Hong Shigong sat comfortably on the sail yard arm. His mouth loudly sang the falling lotus flower, the song beggars sang when begging for food. His face showed complacency, but actually his heart was very anxious. How long can we stay on this mast? He wondered. Even if the old poison won't chop it down, we still can't go down if he did not withdraw the snakes. The two of them can drink wine and sleep, but all the two of us can do up here is eating wind and urinate. Thoughts it. As soon as he remembered urinating, he stood up, pulled his pants down and scattered his urine down to the snakes. Jinger, he shouted, let those scoundrels drink your urine to their heart's content. Go Jing still had his childish character. He followed his master's instruction while shouting happily, please, be my guest. Both master and disciple sent their urine down. Get the snakes out of here. Quick! Ouyang Feng barked while at the same time leaped several steps back. He moved so fast that Hong and Go's urine did not touch his body. Ouyang K, on the other hand, was startled to hear his uncle's anxious call. Some urine drops splashed on his face and neck. He was a neat and clean person, so naturally he was indignant, but suddenly remembered, our snakes fear urine. Amidst the wooden whistle sound the snakes slowly flocked away, but dozens of them closest to the mast were already drenched in urine. These vipers were all hybridized from the Snake Valley in the western region where the Mount White Camel was. Their toxicity was really fierce. Ouyang Feng had used big bamboo baskets hanging in between several hundreds of pairs of camels to transport these vipers thousands of miles to the Central Plains with the intention of using them as weapons to dominate the woolen world. Only the snakes were afraid of humans' excrements. As soon as they were wet they started to turn around and coil in confusion, biting each other so the snake shepherds were totally unable to control them. Hong Shigong and Go Jing laughed very hard seeing this chaotic situation they have caused. Go Jing thought, if Big Brother Zhu saw this I am sure he would be very happy. A martial art expert of this age had to die in the sea. With their level of martial arts skills Island Master Huang and the old poison were still drenched in his urine, while my masters and my urine did not even touch the old poison. About 4 hours later the sky gradually turned dark. The boat crew prepared some banquet tables on the deck. Meat and wine flowed freely, the sweet-smelling aroma drifted upward attacking Hong Shigong and Go Jing's nostrils. Ouyang Feng was really shrewd. How could a glutton like Hong Shigong endure this kind of torture? The gourd on Hong Shigong's back was empty only a short while later. That night Hong Shigong and Go Jing took a turn for the night watch duty. On the deck below them the crew lighted up dozens of lanterns, while a flock of snakes staying guard around the mast. They really did not have any chance to break up this formidable defense. Certainly they could not urinate all the time. Hong Shigong cursed Ouyang Feng's ancestors up to 18 generations, with all the fabricated scandals he could think of, adding some spices to make the scandals more dramatic. But Ouyang Feng did not even go out of his cabin. Hong Shigong cursed until his lips were tired and finally he fell asleep. Early the next morning Ouyang Feng sent a servant to shout loudly under the mast, Hong Bangzhu, Go Shaoyi, Master Ouyang has prepared a superb wine and banquet for you to enjoy. Please come down and enjoy it. You go and invite Ouyang Feng to come out, we will serve him our urine. Hong Shigong shot back. Not long afterward the banquet table was ready under the mast. The foods were steaming hot, looked like they were fresh out from the kitchen. They prepared 2 chairs on each side of the table. It appeared they were waiting for Hong Shigong and Go Jing to come down and enjoy their banquet. Several times Hong Shigong wanted to slide down the mast and plunder the food, but he knew they must be poisoned, so he had no choice but restrained himself. He was so upset and starting his "Your mother is a bitch and you are a male dog" with bird's brain series of cursing. On the 3rd day these 2 people were so hungry and thirsty that their heads started to spin. If only my female disciple is here, Hong Shigong sighed. She is so smart that I am sure she will come out with something to counter the old poison's tactic. All we, master and disciple, can do is just staring and swallow our own saliva. Go Jing also sighed. About noon that day the sun was shining very bright. Suddenly Go Jing saw two white dots on the horizon. He thought they were a couple of white clouds, but the dots moved way too fast for a cloud. They flew closer and getting bigger and bigger, uttering a loud cry. Turned out they were two white eagles. Go Jing was ecstatic. He formed a hook with his left fingers and put it in his mouth, whistling repeatedly. The eagles circled above the boat several times before diving down and perched on Go Jing's shoulders. They were indeed the pair of eagles Go Jing had raised in the Mongolian desert. "Master, could it be wrong or is sailing this way?" he happily asked. "That would be wonderful." Hong Shigong replied, "Too bad these eagles are too small, won't be able to carry us master and disciple out of here. We are stuck here, at a loss of what to do. Quickly tell her to come over here and think of something." Go Jing took out his dagger and cut two pieces about 5 inches square from the sail and carved out 2 characters "Have trouble" and a picture of a gourd. Then he strapped those pieces, one on each white eagle's leg, and said, "Quickly fly back and get Miss Wang to come here." The white eagles made some chirping sound, stretched their wings, and flew from Go Jing's shoulders. They circled the boat once then flew toward the west. About an hour after the white eagles left, Ouyang Feng again tried to entice Hong Shigong and Go Jing to come down the mast by preparing another banquet table, loaded with food and wine. Hong Shigong was indignant. "The old beggar is a glutton and the old poison is using this dirty trick to torture me. I practice martial art my whole life, but I have to admit my spiritual strength is rather lacking. Jinger, what do you say we go down and beat them up real good? The white eagles have already delivered our letter. I believe the situation will change very soon." "Please be patient and wait a little bit longer," Go Jing replied. Hong Shigong smiled. A while later he asked, "Among the world's bad aroma, what do you say is the worst?" "I don't know." "What is it?" Go Jing replied. "There was one time I had to wander way up north. I was caught in a heavy snowstorm for 8 days without any food. Not even a squirrel could be found. I wanted to eat tree bark, yet I couldn't find any either. Randomly I dug around the snow-covered ground and was lucky to find 5 living things, so I could extend my life another day. The next day I found a yellow wolf and was able to satisfy my hunger." "What were those 5 living things?" Go Jing asked. "They were earthworms, fat and juicy earthworms. I just swallowed them alive, did not even dare to chew," Hong Shigong replied. Go Jing recalled how the slimy earthworms wiggle. He almost threw up. Hong Shigong laughed heartily. He intentionally talked about the world's dirtiest and smelliest things to battle the aroma from food and wine below them. He talked some more and cursed some more, before finally said, "Jinger, the old beggar has eaten earthworms, but there is something even more disgusting than they that the old beggar would rather eat my own toes than eating that thing." "Do you know what it is?" Go Jing smiled. "I know. It's dung," he exclaimed. Hong Shigong shook his head. "No, it is dirtier than that." He let Go Jing make some more guesses before bursting out in laughter. "I'll tell you what it is. The world's dirtiest and most disgusting thing is the Western poison Ouyang Feng." "Right! Right!" Go Jing also burst in laughter. After suffering the whole afternoon, that evening Ouyang came out and stood amidst his flock of vipers. He smiled and said, "Uncle Hong, Brother Go, my uncle wants to borrow the 9-yin manual just to take a look, nothing else." Hong Shigong cursed under his breath, "Son of a bitch, what a good intention he has." In his anger suddenly an idea came into his head. But he kept a straight face and shouted loud and clear, "Little rascal, the old man admits defeat to your dog-like uncle's evil scheme. Quickly prepare some food and wine, we'll talk again tomorrow." Ouyang was delighted. He knew Hong Shigong's word was like a mountain. He certainly would live up to his promise, so he gave the command to withdraw the snakes immediately. Hong Shigong and Go Jing slid down the mast and went into the cabin, where Ouyang's servants delivered all kind of food and wine. As soon as the door was closed, Hong Shigong immediately drank half a pot of wine, ripping half a chicken and started to chew. Are these food and wine free of poison? Go Jing asked with a low voice. Stupid kid, Hong Shigong said, that bird brain wants you to write down the manual. He won't harm your life just yet. Quickly eat as much as you can, we have things to discuss afterward. Go Jing silently agreed. In one breath he ate 4 big bowls of rice. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Hong Shigong used the end of his sleeve to wipe his greasy mouth, then whispered in Go Jing's ear, the old poison wants the 9-yin manual from you. You write a 9-yin altered manual for him. Go Jing was puzzled. 9-yin altered manual? He asked in a low voice. Hong Shigong smiled. Thought's right. He said. In this whole wide world, you are the only one who knows the 9-yin manual. Whatever you want to write, just write. Who is going to say that what you write is not the real manual? Intentionally you alter and mix up the sentences. Let him use that to train himself in martial art. I am sure even if he practices for 100 years he won't master even one fart. Go Jing was delighted. He thought, this is a really clever trick. The old poison will surely fall for it. But then he remembered something. Ouyang Feng's martial art is profound. He is also crafty and vigilant. If disciple just scribbles some nonsense, he will find out eventually. Then what? He asked. You have to write something that appeared right but actually wrong, Hong Shigong explained. Write 3 correct sentences then alter the 4th one. Add or subtract some numbers. For example, if the manual says you need to do it 8 times, change it to 6 or perhaps 10. As smart as he is, he will never find it out. I am willing to spend 7 days and 7 nights without food or wine just to see him training from this fake manual. Speaking to this point he could not restrain his smile. Go Jing also laughed. If he really practices according to the altered manual, not only he will waste his time and energy, but he could suffer some internal injury as well, he said. Now quickly think carefully how you are going to alter the manual. Once he is suspicious, our plan will be foiled, Hong Shigong said with a smile. Then he added, the content of the 2nd volume had been read and rewritten by Huang Yaoshe's wife. Moreover, that little rascal had read it on the Peach Blossom Island. Hence this part you can't change too much, just add some incorrect words here and there. I am sure that little rascal won't know the difference. Go Jing silently recited the manual in his head, trying to think which sentences he could alter, where he could insert some misleading sentences. He replaced hold with a move, above with below, and other simple alterings that did not require him to recompose the whole sentence. In short, he was following his master's instruction to make subtle changes everywhere in the manual. For example, he changed the sentence hand and mind toward the sky to foot and buttock toward the sky, or feet firmly on the ground into hands lightly moving on the ground. On the internal energy cultivation he changed concentrate chi in the pubic region into concentrate chi in the chest and throat,